Welcome back to The Outright Effect, a podcast in which unique perspectives challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. We're two ambitious women who talk about how we like to stretch our creativity and work on self-growth to become better people. I'm Tempsy.
And I'm Shelly.
And today we're talking about our ideal day.
So in terms of this, we were thinking about, how we would frame our lifestyle, any changes that we would make. What does the ideal day mean to us? So it could be, I think a lot of people out there think like as in the, today, like literally today. Does ideal day mean work-life balance, that you just don't want to be spending all of your time at work? Maybe you're bringing work home with you. But I think for us, that might be part of it, but also kind of going into like, if I could have a whole nother me somewhere or whatever, like if I could really create this day from scratch, and something that's like ongoing and sustainable, like, what would that look like for us?
Because we don't all get
So,
to choose, right? What our day
right,
looks like. We have
right.
certain things that we just have to do because that's what's required in our lives. And so that doesn't always align with what we wish our lives would be from day to day. So we just thought that was an
Right.
interesting topic.
Yeah. And so, does that mean for you, Tempsy, does the ideal day mean work-life balance, or does it mean something else?
It does definitely mean work-life balance. And even if it's not like work in the sense of work, going to a job every day, but doing meaningful work in my life. Even if I'm doing meaningful work, I don't want that meaningful work to get in the way of my family life and caring for myself, my body, my mind, my overall well-being. Like even though you're doing things that you're passionate about, doesn't mean you don't need to manage how much time and energy you put towards that. So for me, for sure, I'm just like one of those people who's kind of a workaholic. Once I get invested in something, I'll just keep working and working and going and going. And so I've really had to manage that and course correct and change behaviors within myself. And so for me, it definitely means work-life balance. What about you, Shelley?
For me, I would say, I would say I have some similar work habits. Like I'm a workaholic, I do a lot of work, I forget to take breaks, that kind of stuff. But for me, the ideal day is more like literally what would I be doing from when I wake up to when I go to sleep, and what parts of that would I change? Right now I'm the classic example of your average person, right? I wake up, I go to a job, right? I come home and I cook dinner, whatever. But if I could have other, parts of that within my day that could be different, that to me is like what I would consider my ideal day. So I think, one of the reasons why we thought this would be an appropriate topic to talk about is because, some of the things that we've been talking about is related to like, our dreams of wanting to be our own boss, being an entrepreneur, starting our own businesses. We have and will be interviewing more people who are going through, that kind of
Entrepreneurial
experience,
process.
right? Yeah, on their own. And so, thinking in that kind of way, and I think what shed some light for me on what my ideal day might look like are like, honestly, this is going to sound weird, but it's like the pandemic. Because for a while I was working from home, like literally before I would wake up, get ready in like 20 minutes and be out the door and at work, like right, like an hour or more earlier than I actually needed to start. Whereas now there's no traffic. So I don't really have to do that. I can kind of like, not be super leisurely in the morning, but, I can do some stuff in the morning. And so that's what kind of got me thinking. But additionally, some other things that I was doing with my day. So, now, not right now, but, a couple months ago when I was doing the whole like work from home thing, when I finished my day, I could immediately go into a workout. I didn't have to get back in a car and drive again or anything like that. And so that's kind of what got me started thinking about like, what would my ideal day actually look like?
Yeah, definitely. And I do think that work-life balance is just a portion of what I want to consider in my ideal day. I think my ideal day is definitely, it doesn't just mean work-life balance. I agree with you. It means that there are some things in my day, my current day, that I would prefer to have a little bit different in an ideal day. But I always, for me personally, I always have to think about how work-life balance plays into that, because I will overwork myself. But I do agree, there are definitely things about my current day that I would want to change. But I will say, like you said, with the pandemic, it's a lot closer to my ideal day than it has ever been in the past. So that's good. But so what are your thoughts on, what are the kind of pillars of creating this day? What are your goals, for creating the perfect day? What do you want to get out of it?
So I think, when I sort of thought about what does my ideal day look like, I mean, I feel like in the morning, if I could, right? In the morning, I would start it off with like a workout, maybe like a bar class or yoga or, something like that. Or just depending on, maybe some days I'll do that, but other days I'll do like a harder workout in the afternoon at the end of the day instead. But perhaps my day could start a little bit later because truthfully, I was starting work at like 6:45 in the morning because I was trying to beat traffic before,
Right.
but maybe instead with like having these things, or if I had my own business or something like that, maybe my work day might start at 9 instead so that I could get that workout in or whatever. And I mean, a lot of people know this. I think, I mean, maybe friends, I don't really eat breakfast. You know what I mean? I literally like get out of bed, get ready, drive to work, start work at 8, like 6:45 when like technically I was supposed to be starting at 8 and I wouldn't eat anything, right? And
Right.
so here I was drinking my green tea at my desk, typing away, like checking emails already. And I mean, and that's kind of where the workaholic part comes for me, right? Like maybe I'd take a lunch that day, maybe I wouldn't. I definitely wasn't taking an hour most days, even though
Right.
I was starting an hour and 15 minutes earlier. But, it's kind of like that. And, the elements of what I was doing throughout the day. So, I mean, while I don't think that I'm going to get away from going to a job anytime soon, but I will have a little bit of that coming up for a couple of weeks. So we're going to see how that goes. And, Temps and I were talking about, that's my opportunity to like sort of live out like what my ideal day might look like. Right. So, I wish like what I learned as well working from home was that like I like to kind of like put a lunch together while I was at home, like really quick. I mean, it was just me
Hmm.
at home because Chris works at a hospital. He had to go to work, obviously. So, like doing that kind of thing. And then also being at home at 5 or around 5 to maybe like make dinner or something else, but having the option to like read a book during my quote unquote lunch break at home or something like that, right? Like changing it up where I'm not just like going to work, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess like part of my work too is sort of transactional. So, being able to have the flexibility to work on different types of things to my own, liking, like whatever I would come up with is what I would be doing. But that's kind of like the gist of it, right? What about you? What would some of your like ideal day like criteria look like?
Well, I would definitely want to make sure that I got a workout in as well, definitely caring for my wellness. And the days that I don't work out, because you can work out 7 days a week, but you should give your body a break, taking some time to just like journal maybe instead, or do something to that effect, maybe do some goal setting. I don't know, something like that where I have some space to think without anybody around, because that's when I do my best thinking. And of course, be productive, whether that's for a job or whether that's for um, my own family business, or whether that's for, way in the future when I don't necessarily need to work but I'm focusing more on maybe some nonprofit work that I want to put my energy towards. And so productivity is definitely going to be important. And I want to make sure that I'm able to have enough time to feed, feed my family, but get a little bit more creative, because I just don't have the amount of time right now that I would love to have to try new things and try new recipes and kind of work through those things. Like if they fail, what am I going to feed my family? I have to start all over again. So having space and time for that, and having space and time for really being present with my family. and building traditions. So that kind of being present with the family and having every Friday night is movie night, and or doing things like that where my kid will remember those things as he grows up, and remembering that his parents spent time with him and really loved him and cared for him and wanted to engage with him, because we get so busy in our day to day that we might not be able to do that as much. And so in my ideal day, I wouldn't have so much on my plate to where I wouldn't be able to spend that focused energy with my family. So those are kind of the things I'm looking to cover in this ideal day.
Yeah, and I think, something that you mentioned that I forgot to, I guess, was sort of around like the journaling aspect. While specifically journaling is not something that I'm looking to do in my ideal day. I mean, I feel like I could do a little bit more journaling in general or that kind of stuff, but adding that creative element to my day is something that I would like to do. Maybe not specifically with writing things down, but something else, right? And also I think that's something that I wish I could incorporate into my days more often is like kind of getting outside, walking around, going to a park, or like something like that. What I wish I mean, I have a mini version of this, but what I wish I had like a better setup, what would be like an outdoor space where I could like sit outside and like read something or whatever, or like, I mean, I have an outdoor space, but it's right next to the street and it's kind of loud. But, in a perfect world, I guess that would be somewhere else quieter, and I would maybe have a little bit more shade. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's things like that I feel like I don't often remove myself from work situations, or like, I mean, I'm not saying these things are like not enjoyable, but I feel like other things are more enjoyable, right? Like I'm really bad at relaxing, in case
Yeah.
nobody knew, but yeah.
Well, I think also that, our culture right now is so ingrained in screens. We're so focused on screens that getting outside and reading a physical book, or even like a Kindle with no backlighting, I think getting some vitamin D, even though it's not direct light, you're in the shade, breathing in the fresh air, and just getting some space away from all of the screens is definitely beneficial to your health. So I think that's a great idea. So what is your realistic ideal day then? Let's get into it.
I guess I would think of it more so as like an ideal week, I would say.
Okay.
So, I think something that I was doing a little bit more when all of the stay at home stuff was going on, and I think I shared with you too, is I was doing sort of like, because farmers markets aren't really a thing anymore, but I would order like some produce from a local farm online and then drive out to go pick it up. So I feel like, that's something that I wish I could do once a week, or like, once every few days when I needed to or whatever. And kind of like incorporating some of that stuff into, what I eat, right? Like I feel like that definitely helps a lot more with like eating healthy and feeling better and all that. But I think, that's something that I want to incorporate at least once a week. Otherwise, I do feel like on a regular day, maybe having a little bit of, need I say breakfast? I don't know. Let's see if I become a breakfast person one of these. It's just that I don't like to eat early. It's not that I don't like breakfast food. I just don't like eating early. It just doesn't make me feel good. It's kind of funny because nowadays I hear about so many people like intermittent fasting. Meanwhile, I've been doing that since like fifth grade, not even knowing it was a thing, but just like doing it.
And I've had to force
um,
myself to do it.
so it's kind of something like that where, I wish I could have like maybe a little bit of fruit in the morning, like make myself a little salad or something like that, like something else for lunch, like one of those like protein bowl kind of situations. But also just doing more things that I enjoy during the day. So like, I mean, right now I work in a corporate environment, right? Like I think, in my current job today, is a little bit different from my job maybe like several months ago. But, so the several months ago job was a lot more corporate. I was there for like a few years, right? Basically running from one meeting to the next, getting on a conference call and all that kind of stuff. But maybe like breaking that up a little bit. And I know I get that in that role that I was in, I needed to do that in order to get my job done. And I totally get that. I'm not saying like I don't want to go to any meetings or anything like that. But if I had my way, if I had it my way, I would have less meetings. And in between is when I would work on projects. So I think, really my realistic ideal day is, doing YouTube full time, where I can think of like marketing strategies, ideas for videos that I'd want to record, figure out what time is best for me to record. Like what I noticed today is actually recording in the morning is probably better, because in the afternoon in the room that I record in, it gets really hot. Like it's so hot. But, doing like figuring out those kinds of things within my day and picking up, like maybe I would have meetings like once a day, or like every a couple of meetings during the week, just depending on what I might be working on. I feel like that kind of goes into the day, and focusing more on promoting my own brand and that kind of stuff. I feel like those things, um, I think, if I were to be an entrepreneur and do something for myself full time, I can manage that a little bit better. Like I would have the say, right? And so I think, that kind of plays into what my ideal day looks like. But also getting in like reading, like that kind of stuff. I'm thinking of maybe more like fun, not necessarily, I wouldn't say creative, because it's not creative, but I just don't do these things. But, like hang out at a park. I don't really do that, but I might want to, right? That could be good for me.
Yeah.
So, I think those are elements that play into my ideal day.
What I think about the struggle, I guess, with going to a park and just sitting down and maybe people watching or reading a book is that, in your mind, there's so many other things that you could be doing that you don't stop and take the time to do that, because if you did, you might sit there and think about all the things you should be doing. And so
Right, right,
that's how I feel anyway. And so that's why I don't think I take the time enough time to like really do that, tell myself, okay, the intent of me sitting at this park and not, and people watching or just thinking is to not really think about all the things I'm not doing when I'm here. It's to really find space to either think creatively or think about future goals, or to people watch and just pass the time, whatever that
right.
looks like. Right. And
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
like that about what you're saying.
And I think that's where for me, like my ideal day would be that I could go to that park, have nothing else to worry about. So then I'm able to do these other things, right? So that's really what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Not saying like, Shelly, you should go to a park, even though you got 50 things on your to-do list. Like that's, it's not like that kind of thing, but where I could go there and be like, I'm good. I don't got nothing else to worry about. And this is where I'm supposed to be right now, chilling.
Time
Yeah.
freedom. Time
Mm-hmm.
freedom. I'm all about time freedom. That is like my whole life's goal, is to have time freedom. But for me, my ideal day, like realistically, and to me, realistically means like right now in the job that I have and everything like that, my ideal day is to wake up super early. As most of you probably know, if you've been keeping up on our episodes, I like my alone time, and I'm a morning person. So in the morning, I do my best to wake up at 4:45, 5 o'clock. I go outside and walk around my block, and I'll come back and shower, because I'm probably hot and dirty. Sometimes I'll run too, to just get my exercise in, but this is my wellness piece. But I was not doing this before the pandemic. So the pandemic really gave me the opportunity, and I know I'm not trying to benefit from the pandemic. I know that, it is, doing a lot to our economy and to the people who are getting sick. But this is just one thing that I've noticed that I've been able to do and feel like I could continue doing it if we were back in the office, now that I've been given the opportunity to do it now, which is super interesting. So I'll wake up 4:45, 5 o'clock, either run or walk, at least get outside, and I'll make an effort to look up at the sky, look up the skyline, look at the large buildings, because focusing on something that's just way bigger than me and my own problems really helps me feel a little bit more centered and calms my heart down, like any anxiety that I might be having. It does really, really help. It's so interesting. Like, who'd have thought when we were 20 years old that anything like this would really be beneficial for us. I never thought that. But for me, it's super helpful. It really sets a great tone for my day. And so this would definitely be part of an ideal day. Even if I couldn't go outside, just getting some exercise, looking outside, even if it's raining, and just taking some deep breaths in, get some air in my lungs, and set the day off right, in my opinion. Then I would get cleaned up. I would then have a cup of coffee with a little bit more quiet time. I just love quiet time. Sometimes on my walks and runs in the morning, though, I do listen to podcasts, but lately I have been really enjoying silence. And either I'm intentfully trying to get my mind silent, or I'm enjoying silence because I have a lot going on in my mind, and it really feels good to sort it out. So that will always be part of my day.
So would you say silence is like literal silence? Like do you have your earbuds in so you can't hear anything, or are you listening to the things around you as you're walking or running?
I do not have my earbuds in. I bring them with me just in case my mood changes, but I have lately I've just been taking them out, and I when I'm thinking, I don't hear the noises outside unless it's very abrupt, like a siren. So I'm very focused in my mind about the things that I'm thinking about. But when I initially go on my walk and I look up to the sky and I look at the skyline and I take in my breaths of air, I'm only intently thinking about those things and just kind of like taking them in. Right. But I'm not doing that the whole time. I'm not just walking around with my head in the sky and just not looking where I'm going. But I also, another good point is I also rarely look at my phone. The only reason I'm looking at my phone is if because I'm looking to see if my husband has texted me that my son's awake, because I'll need to start heading home to take care of him because my husband sleeps a little bit later. So that's a big part of my ideal day, and I feel very blessed to be able to kind of practice that now, that I've been working from home. And then I have my cup of coffee. That's all. That would also be part of my ideal day, hopefully in silence. But if not, then it's okay. But I will say the days that I don't get to do these two or three things in the morning, I feel a little bit of disappointment. Does that make sense? Like at first I was feeling like my day was going to be a hot mess, but I gave myself a little bit of grace, a little bit of compassion. And I was like, it's okay. Cause sometimes you can't wake up at 4:45 or 5 o'clock in the morning because you went to bed late. Recently my husband got vertigo and I was up till midnight doing a deep dive on vertigo and trying to figure out what was going on and help him out. There's no way I was waking up at 4:45, 5 a.m. in the morning. And I think in the past I would have, just felt like I was sleeping in, but now I'm making a conscious decision to say I did not sleep enough. Sleep is extremely important. I need to intentfully sleep in, which is a big difference from just being lazy and sleeping in. You know what I mean? So, so those are big parts of my ideal day. And then productivity, that portion, I have a job right now. I love my job and I love the people that I work with. I want to make sure I got enough rest. I got my exercise in. I'm centered, and I've had my cup of coffee, or I'm still working on it, and I can be super productive. And to me, that's really important. And by this time, my kid has already woken up. I've fed him. I've taken care of him. I've actually given him little hugs and snuggles, and I've spent some time in the present, just looking at him and holding him, because he's kind of takes a while to wake up. And so that's one thing that I probably skipped over, but that's been really nice to be able to just take a little bit of time in the morning to hold on to him and hug him and just realize like this kid, he needs a little time waking up. I'm going to give him that attention and love. Whereas before, when I was driving into work, get up, let's go. You need to eat faster, hurry up. We gotta go. Like this is just much calmer way of living. So
I
sorry.
think a thing to kind of like point out there too is he's not old enough to be able to speed it up and
Yeah,
understand what that means, right? Like if you had like a 12-year-old, they'd be like, "All right, mom, like I can go and get it together," but he's young.
yeah,
So, speeding into work, he's probably just like, I don't even get what's going on. Why is she rushing out the door? Yeah.
right. So he knows what hurry up means, but he doesn't feel that sense of urgency, I think is what you're saying. Like, why do I need to hurry up? Why do we need to?
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's a great point. But then, productivity throughout the day. My husband works at home too. When it's time for my son's second breakfast, you know, making that, I would say that I don't enjoy that as much, making the meals throughout the day when I'm trying to be productive. So, in my ideal day, I would prefer to have all of that prepared, or maybe have, my husband do it instead of me, but he has to work and he has a more deadline driven role. So he can't as much, whereas mine is more project based and doesn't have as many deadlines. So I'm typically the one doing so. Ideally, I would hope that he would do it. If I had the ideal day, it was my choice, he would do all of
Someone
that.
else would do it.
Someone else would do that and would put my son down for a nap and keep him occupied. Ideally, he'd be in school, but I just don't feel it's safe enough yet for a 3-year-old to be required to wear a mask all day. I just think he'd be touching his face and taking it off and putting it back on. I
I mean, they wouldn't get it at that point, you know? It's
yeah,
just kind of like, but it's weird and hot and all that stuff, right? Like those are the priorities
right.
for someone of that age. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally get people who are sending their kids to school for those, preschools that are allowing that, because they may not have both parents working from home who can kind of, support each other throughout the day where necessary. So I'm not against it. I know that there's a need for it for some folks, but for us, since we are both working from home and, we've been blessed enough to be able to have employers who will allow us to do that, I just would feel much more comfortable him being home. But in an ideal situation, somebody else would be occupying him so that I can be super productive. And I wish that, ideally my husband and I would sit down and have lunch with him if we could, right? But right now, we each kind of have lunch at different times. So if somebody was able to occupy him and we could all have lunch together, then continue being productive, then at night, I would also like somehow have food already prepped, because when I have to prep food and cook it and get it all situated and then clean up after, there's like very little time in between to spend that focused um, energy being present with my family and really enjoying one another. So I don't know how that would work, but if somehow I could just have, not have so much time spent in the kitchen. My husband helps me clean after, we kind of switch off, because he does a lot of the other cleaning. Then, if we could just have somebody else do that, that would be great too. But I know that costs money. I'm just talking about my ideal day. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just, making sure that I have that focused energy around my family when I can. But on the weekends, that's a totally different story. But yeah, that's my ideal day. But we also wanted to talk about, what if money were no object? Would your day be different? What would it look like? Or week, I guess, maybe for you, Shelly.
Yeah. Well, I think, at this point, if money were no object, I would be in the position of sort of like what I was implying, like having my own business, for example, right? And I think that, within this workplace structure, well, one, I think I would be living in a different place. So I think that, my ideal day would include like a home office, right? And maybe even like a larger space, or I mean, we're saying if money were no object, right? So let's say if I had like a detached structure from my house, that could be a small open floor plan office, or maybe I had an office, other building. But I feel like that would be included within my ideal day. So, and also maybe like workout space, right? With like actual workout equipment. So I think I would start it off with like getting up, right? Like getting in a workout, like an actual workout with gym equipment, you know, and then maybe having like a green smoothie or like some kind of fruit or something like that, and get cleaned up and then kind of start my day. And I would imagine that my day would start around like 9 o'clock would
Mm-hmm.
kind of be the thing, 8 or 9, somewhere around there. And, I would hope that a lot of my work would involve creativity, that I'd be able to have a chance to work with the team so that I could do the parts that I liked and maybe less of the things that I didn't really like. But also, I feel like those things that I could get other people to help me with, I would hope that they could bring, new ideas, and more talent to the table of like things that I'm lacking. So like right now, I mean, if any of you are, subscribed to my YouTube channel or watch any videos, I do all of the editing and all that stuff on my own. And I have been doing research on like how to do editing better, like other things that I want to do with that. I don't know how to do that, but I would hope that somebody I worked with would know how to do that. I know there's editors out there. But I also think, some parts of this day would include like team meetings or planning, like working out new ideas, thinking of like really fun, interesting content. I do like stuff that looks a little bit like cinematic with like slow-mo, like going out to places, stuff like that. I think those are things that I would incorporate as well. And then, at the end of the day, I would, I would want to have like a good dinner, not like open a can of soup. I don't do that today, but you know what I mean? Like I'd want like a pretty good like dinner, not anything crazy. Obviously something's pretty healthy, but that's kind of how I would like want to sort of end, like transition from the workday to like the evening, right? I think I'd also want like, some comfortable space at home somewhere where I could like sit and kind of hang out or read or like, just like, I don't know, look up random stuff online or be on Pinterest or something, like social media or something like that. That's, something that I think is important too. Maybe I have like a little candle or like a diffuser, like that kind of situation. Maybe this is outside. Obviously, I would have a dog. Depending on how long this is from now, it may not be the dog I currently have, like not to be sad, but he's 5 already,
Yeah.
but, hang out. I actually want like 2 or 3 dogs. So, hang out with the dogs, that kind of thing. Maybe watch a movie at home or something like that. I mean, I think, those are some things, um, that I would really like. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like to some degree it sounds pretty simple, but at the same time too, I also feel like I would need quite a bit of money. I mean, we're saying money is no object. I mean, I have a gym at my house in this scenario for crying out loud, but that's kind of how I feel like it could be, like that's what would be ideal to me. But
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I'm not trying to like leave Chris out of it, obviously. I mean, he'd be like there, but I actually asked this to him, like, hey, if I like, made it big or had a, pretty substantial like income stream from YouTube videos or whatever, if I was doing my own thing,
Hmm.
what would you want to do? And he said, continue doing his job. So, so I
Whatever.
was like, okay. So yeah, I mean, during that whole time, he wouldn't be around because I'd be at home with maybe, whoever else I worked with, like whatever team I had, right?
Right.
Or if we had some office space or whatever. But yeah, and I think, some of that could be working on some other really cool projects. Maybe I want to make t-shirts or like, start a fashion line. I have no idea. I don't know
Hmm.
how to do that stuff, but hey, we're saying I have all the money in the world and I can pay for people to help me out, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, those are things like, and on the weekends, I would want to do something fun, go on a hike, hang out somewhere, whatever, maybe this is the point where travel is okay again. So, obviously a lot of traveling. And I think, Tempsy and I were talking about, money were no object, what would our ideal day be like? Like I would want homes in other locations so that I could visit these places, maybe get some business done in those areas or what have you. Like who knows what that could look like, right? Like, I mean, sky's the limit here. So, I mean, I feel like I would have a place like in LA, maybe New York and Japan. I feel like, those are places that I'd like to go to often. And places that I feel like could be potential like business opportunities, like places for good business opportunities in general, right? So yeah, that's how I would say my ideal day would be like if money were no object. What about you, Tempsy? What would yours look like? You have a
Mine,
maid, you have a cook. I mean, I would like
mine,
those things too, actually. That would be
sure.
nice.
Absolutely. Mine is very similar. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe we should just live next to each other so we can just talk to each other over all our backyard walls. But for me, very similar. Get a workout in the morning. Have at least like a standalone bike and some weights and a yoga mat so that I can work out from home. Doesn't have to be a full-on gym, but I think that would be very beneficial. Be able to go outside and run and walk or whatever. But then I would have breakfast with my family, and I don't mind cooking it, to be super honest. It would be super great to have a chef, but I did go to culinary school, and I do enjoy cooking when I don't have so much other things on my plate. Does that make sense? I think right now I don't enjoy cooking because I just don't have the time to kind of experiment and play around. And so for breakfast, breakfast is so easy. I would never hire a chef for breakfast. And there's so many different things that you can do so quickly that I just don't think it's worth it. But I would take my time with it, drink my coffee while I'm, prepping, and then have breakfast with my family. And then the productivity piece, I would either have a home, like our own business in some way, shape, or form. Um, or, once we get to the point, obviously money's not an object, so we don't really need to have a business if we don't want, then I would start nonprofit work, support the community, support children within the community. And so I would only want to spend a few hours a day on that if money were no object. You know what I mean? Like, I want to take care of my family, be productive for whatever my family needs, because I'm guessing by that time my kid will be in school. So I'll need to make sure he has doctor's appointments and everything he needs for his, for his schooling, and help him with his homework. Like, all of that stuff needs to be taken care of. So it's part of my productivity period throughout the day. Have lunch with my husband because I'm guessing my kid will be at school. And then run errands like the rest of the day. I really want to break up my day. Like, I don't want to be in the same place from 8 to 5. And so anything that would need to be done for like nonprofit work or whatever, I like being out on the town and like just going to different places, not necessarily spending money, but just doing stuff outside. And then in the afternoon, like same thing, taking some time outside to either read or do something creative, bullet journal. I would also have a very elaborate home office. I've dreamed of a home office for a very long time. And so I would just deck out my home office if money was no object and just make it super comfortable, super girly, no boys allowed, and just, and I would have all my bullet journaling stuff. I see all these amazing like home offices with bullet journaling, you know, paraphernalia everywhere. And I would just love to have all of that and just do some creative work. So if I could get some of that in, that would be amazing. And then when my kid got home, making dinner, but trying new things. Like, I want to get an air fryer. We just don't have enough space in our house to have appliances like that. So I would want to get an air fryer. I want to try different things with like different, recipes, and make a pizza at home, like just do stuff like that where it's a little bit of experimentation. Maybe my kid can help and he can kind of learn how to measure things and do little, like, just having that focused time with him and with my family to enjoy our lives. And it would definitely be an open floor plan, so I'm not stuck in the kitchen by myself. But I do love cooking. I just wish I had more time and less like chaos in my head, while I'm doing it. So
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying about cooking is that because of all the other things you have to do in your day, cooking becomes more of a task than an enjoyable thing. And if it were more enjoyable, then it would be okay. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Hmm.
I went to culinary school thinking I would, start working in the culinary industry, but I realize now that's not necessarily like, I didn't want stress around cooking. I wanted to enjoy cooking. So you're absolutely right. But yeah, I think that's my ideal day. And again, still incorporating those traditions for my kid to really feel super like he has a super happy home life. It's never going to be 100% perfect, but just that he feels his parents are really invested in his life and love him very much. And that's really important. Oh, and dogs too. I would like a dog or two.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, with this kind of ideal day setting and the ability to have like that flexible schedule that you can dictate, like I would want like friends to come over during the week if they could, or like to go like, meet up with people, have lunch or whatever, like that kind of stuff. To some degree, I do like networking, not at like a, really pounding the pavement kind of scale, but, just getting out there and meeting other people. I think like, that kind of stuff is interesting. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could do all of these things on a more regular basis, but I kind of do wish I had a chef. I mean, I like kind of cooking too, but I'm like, I cook very simple things. So if
Yeah.
I could, maybe not like a full-time chef, maybe like, Friday night chef, right?
Well, your
Like,
time is valuable, right? So if you don't
right,
like really enjoy cooking, then why not spend that time doing something? If money's not an object, spend
right.
that time
Yeah.
doing. But I really want to co-sign on that thing you brought up earlier about connecting, because I think now that we've been in a pandemic for so long, like that's something that was very important to me before this pandemic hit. But now that it's just not an option to physically be around other people in close proximity, I feel like I just didn't even think about it, to be honest.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
in the past, thinking about my ideal day has been a regular thing for me for some time. My husband and I talk about it all the time. If money were no object, We'd be very like level-headed about everything, we hope, and all that good stuff. But community was definitely important to me. And so I think going to lunch with people and friends and having, people who have similar values, and I really enjoy chatting with them, and they kind of, we lift each other up, kind of like you, Shelly, so having good conversations and having lunch and being physically present with one another, I think is a lot of fun, and even getting bigger groups of people together every once in a while. Um, Pool parties. If I had a pool, which money was no object, I would definitely have a pool. All that kind of stuff I think is super important.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because it's like the gym situation. I'm like, I would have a full gym, and Tempsy's like, I just want a stationary bike and some weights and a yoga mat.
I mean, if I had an elliptical, that would be cool too. But, and I'm talking about not just the little 2 pound weights, I'm talking about like kettlebells. You know what I
Right,
mean?
like a whole set of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I don't need like a full on gym. I think that just takes up too much space. And
Hey, money's no object.
I know, you're right. You're right. I could have a whole room for that.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I want in my dream house. I was gonna
I guess
say, like, yeah, if we were neighbors, you could come over and use my gym. I don't care.
I guess I'm not dreaming big enough.
Uh,
I'll have to come back to no, just kidding. But yeah, I think it's important to think about these things too, because if you are a strong-minded person who's very driven, and you don't have to be entrepreneurial, but you're driven and motivated, these are things that eventually you could just kind of not think about, and then not really end up being truly happy, even though you've gotten
mhm.
to that point of success that you've always dreamed of, but you're not really living a life that's super fulfilling. And so
Right.
I think this is a really good practice to have, and it actually gives me a lot of joy to think about. I'm a planner at heart, so not
Yeah,
everybody is. So
same.
some people may not think this is fun, but for me, it's a really fun just conversation or thought process to have.
Oh, actually, what I would do also is get Chris a driver because he hates driving to work.
Ooh, I love that.
He doesn't like looking for parking. But yeah, I would get him a driver. He actually was like, I want a driver, like now. And I was like, what?
It's
It's
called
called the
Uber.
bus.
You went
No,
bus.
he's
I
fine.
went.
He's fine taking the bus. He likes taking the bus. I'm like, I don't know about taking the bus right now, but yeah, I would get him a driver. And I like driving myself places, so I don't think I would use it.
Yeah, I don't need a driver. But I did one time, we were talking about what if we had like FU money. I know money's no object is kind of that, but like FU money, like you could spend it on anything. What Because we are trying to be very level-headed in case we get to that point, because we are very ambitious and trying to make a good life for ourselves, a comfortable life for ourselves. But if we had like all the money in the world, we could have one splurge item, and mine was to have somebody do my hair and makeup every day, because I just hate getting ready in the morning, but I don't like going out of the house not feeling put together. So that's a really tough situation if you don't like getting ready in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. I think I would have a personal shopper.
Ooh,
Yeah.
but you like
But not
shopping.
but see, I would like, to the degree of someone like bringing hauling all that stuff to your house and then you just take what you want. Not that they're
Oh,
like planning out this is what your look is. I wouldn't like that, but I would want them to go look for it for me and bring it back.
based on your preferences.
Yeah.
Mm,
Hmm.
very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, like, I don't know, having your hair and makeup done every single day would probably take a lot of time, and time is of the essence, I think. So I'm still on the fence about that if I did get to that place of having FU money, like if we won the lottery or something. But it would be kind of cool every once in a while to just have your
Yep.
makeup and hair done for you while you're
Hmm.
like Pinteresting, or, like chatting with your kid and having good, deep conversations, so you're not like focusing on your hair and makeup somebody else's. Like, I think that would be
Right.
cool.
Right.
But anywho, I think that's it for today. I hope that was an engaging conversation, but please let us know what your ideal day or what your one splurge item would be if you had FU money. I think that would be kind of
Hmm.
interesting to hear
Yep.
from
It'll be
people.
fun.
That would be really fun. But thanks for listening to this episode of The Outright Effect. You can find us at theoutrighteffect.com. Follow us on our social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at The Outright Effect. You can also reach us by emailing us theoutrighteffect@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.